I just got back from the Microsoft store. That's a Surface Go. Let's check it out. Let's see what context is worth sharing with you guys. Now, in all honesty, I'm not really much of a Windows guy. I've been using Macs for about the past 10 years. So it's been about 10 years since I bought a Windows laptop until today. Well, there we've got the Microsoft Surface Go. It's their brand new 10-inch Surface. I think that it's gonna be the device for me, but let's go ahead and unbox it, put it through a couple of, well, frankly, some pretty superficial paces, and then I'll let you know what I think about it. Let's check it out. All right, big bag, Microsoft bag. Got two items in it. We got the Surface Go, and I got the 4 GB, no, I got the 8 GB. I got the 8 GB model with the 128 GB hard drive, and I've got the type cover in beautiful cobalt blue. Let's check it out. All right, as we can see, we've got the Surface Go here, and I've got the 8 GB version with the 128 GB hard drive. And then over here, we've got the Microsoft Surface Go signature type cover. This has got kind of like an Alcantara texture to it, but we'll check that out later. To start, let's unbox it. Well, inside the box of the type cover, you get the type cover, and that is literally it. Okay, you also get a manual, but well, that's not much. Hopefully everything else I need is in the Surface Go. Let's see, first impressions of this type cover. It feels nice. It's got a funky smell to it though. It's almost fruity. Now that's weird. Yeah, it's got a fruity, funky smell. They did not put that on the box. So what do you get in the box of the Surface Go? Well, you get the Surface Go tablet, of course. You get a nice little charging cable with, ooh, unfortunately, that is a proprietary cable on it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. And you get some instructions, and that's it. That's it. Maybe it's just because I've been buying a bunch of cheap headphones that come with a crap ton of accessories that I expect more, but yeah, this is just, it's just a Surface tablet and a charging cable. That's it. That's all I get. All right, I'm over my disappointment. Here's the instruction manuals. We don't look at those here. Now, initial impressions here of the Surface tablet is, you shouldn't be surprised, I shouldn't be surprised, but this thing is, dare I say, surprisingly small. This is a Windows laptop. Can you believe that? That's kind of cool. All right, here for just comparison, I have an old iPad 3. Now, this is not the newest iPad, but this is a 10-inch iPad for comparison. And you can see the Surface tablet is actually smaller, at least by some dimensions. iPad, Surface, and that's lined up. So it looks like the iPad is a little bit wider, not quite as long, which makes sense because the screen on the Surface is a 3:2 screen. That's the aspect ratio, it's 3:2, whereas the aspect ratio on the iPad has always been 4:3. In terms of thickness, well, you can probably tell that the Surface is actually still thicker than the iPad, and this is, again, an older iPad. The newer iPads are thinner than this. But it's pretty close, and this thing runs Windows. This thing's got 8 GB of RAM, 128 GB of storage, and it runs Windows, which means I could be playing Minecraft, Fortnite, I guess. Now, because this is a Surface tablet, of course, it's not just a flat tablet. It's got the Kickstand. If you go back here, pull up the Kickstand, and kind of see how it operates. It is almost half of, maybe it is, yeah, it's about half of the back of this thing flips out and allows you to hold this thing up. And it's pretty nice because you can kind of basically make it as flat as possible. You can make it as flat to the point that it becomes a mirror and you can see me talking in it. That right there represents about as flat as I can possibly make it, which is, I mean, that's very nearly a flat surface. If you need it any flatter than that, well, you would just frankly fold it back in and now it is actually a flat surface. Let's go ahead and connect it to the type cover. Oh, that's satisfying. Oh yeah. So yeah, it just snaps in with magnets. I didn't even really have to line it up very closely. Popped right in. And the Surface tablet, it's got this little interesting thing with the keyboard where you have to fold it up into the front of the display, and then it basically creates a second magnetic connection. I think this gives it a little bit of extra stability, but it does create a gap underneath the keyboard, which just means that as you're typing, there's a little bit more flex than there would be if this was perfectly flat against the ground. That said, I don't know, frankly, this is at kind of a nice little angle that feels comfortable. This might be more comfortable than if it were flat. Never mind. You know what? I think I would prefer it if it were flat. And of course, I'm getting that wonderful, beautiful fruity aroma emanating from this type cover. Why does it smell like that? Is it weird that I think it smells fruity? I think it's a handsome little combination right there, huh? You get the cobalt blue type cover on the back of a silver, I think that only comes in one color, but the back of the Surface Pro. Oh my gosh, what the heck is that smell? Now, the only thing that kind of disappoints me about this type cover Surface combination is that there is no really good way to store this if I just want to use this in tent mode, right? I can't like fold this behind the thing and then use it in tent mode, unless it'll hold up like that. That's a little shaky. Ideally, I mean, I guess I don't know ideally what it would do, but I see myself using this tent mode quite a bit, you know, propping up the Surface like this to watch Twitch while I'm, let's say, doing the dishes. So I've got it on the windowsill. It'll be like this. I'm gonna have to completely remove the type cover and leave that in a different room, because when you've got the device like this, there's really nothing to do with this if you don't want it hanging off the front of it. Comparison size, this is a Pixel 2. Not the Pixel 2 XL, this is just the regular Pixel 2. This is a Nintendo Switch, and yeah, I'm playing Octopath Traveler. What else can we compare to this? This is my unpacking knife. This is a Sony Walkman, and this is a succulent plant. So that is roughly how small the Surface Go is compared to everyday household items like a succulent plant and a Sony Walkman. All right, that's about as much as I can figure out without turning this thing on. So without further ado, allow me to turn this thing on.
Hi there, I'm Cortana, and I'm here to help. Sign in here.
Hey Cortana.
There, and we'll have
Initial impressions while this thing's setting up is that the screen seems a little dim. Oh wait, there's brightness buttons right there. I can hit them. Oh, that's much better. That's much better. Use my face to sign in faster or more, like, do I do like one of these things? Oh, your camera works with Windows Hello. All right, I can use my camera for that. I've clicked the setup button twice now. Should I hit it a third time? Third time's a charm. All right, so for certain, this setup process is taking much longer than it would on an iPad, but I guess it's giving me time to think about why I didn't get an iPad. And I didn't get an iPad because, well, it just doesn't do enough. It doesn't do enough to justify a 10-inch device. This thing, I think, is gonna do plenty to justify a 10-inch device. So an interesting thing about the Surface Go is that I'm pretty sure this thing has started up in Windows S mode. And what does S mode mean? Well, it basically just means that you're limited in what you can install on this thing. You can only install things that you get from the Windows App Store. I am not interested in that. I need full Windows. Frankly, I need Google Chrome. So I'm gonna see what it's gonna take for me to kick this thing out of S mode and into just regular old Windows. All right, folks, we're back. I think I figured out how to get out of S mode. All right, so first things first, the website, Microsoft's website, tells you to open up the Microsoft Store application and then search for switch out of S mode. I did that. It did not show up anything that I needed. So instead I downloaded Chrome and tried to install it without switching out of S mode. And I got a message letting me know that it wasn't gonna work, but it asked me if I wanted to disable S mode. So I said yes, and it loaded the App Store, and it told me this version of the App Store wouldn't let me disable S mode. So I clicked over here in the upper right corner of the App Store. You can see basically a screen of a bunch of different updates that have to download for the computer. Out of the box, there was an update for the Microsoft Store. Once I installed that update, and then I again tried to install Chrome, went through basically the same flow, but this time it brought me to the screen where it lets me switch out of S mode. All right, well, I have successfully escaped S mode. I'm gonna go ahead and set up a bunch of different things on this and start using it a little bit around the house, and I'll come back here and I'll let you know what I think of the Surface Go upon admittedly very superficial review. All right, I'm back, and I've spent about a day with the Surface Go, and I'm ready to render my verdict. This thing's pretty disappointing. If I were to rate this thing out of 5 stars, I'd have to give it 2 stars out of 5. Oh, that feels bad. I was really looking forward to this thing. All right, so here are my issues. Well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna start out with the good things. The good things about this thing is I love the size of it. I think I love the form factor. It's a bit of a compromise between a tablet and a laptop, right? It's not the greatest laptop just because the way that this thing comes out, it's a 2-step process to put it on a table, so it's a little bit clumsy as a laptop, but it gets the job done. As a tablet, it's not the greatest just because the interface, Windows is not optimized entirely for a tablet interface the way that something like iOS or even Android is. In that regard, it is a little bit of a compromise, but there is still something about this that's super, super appealing. Having full Windows in a device that's this small, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, I'll give it that. The type cover, I actually really like this type cover, The material in this feels pretty nice, which is, okay, that's a nice little bonus, but really like the functionality of it, the key presses that you get and the accuracy and the function of the touchpad, those are all actually excellent. Of course, the keyboard is a little bit small, but that's something you can get used to. I took a little typing test, and I can typically type around 100 words per minute. And even on just my first attempt at typing on this thing, I was already doing like 50 words per minute. So it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So if that doesn't sound like I'm describing a 2-star device, that's because I haven't gotten to the bad parts yet. Whew. And really the big issue with this thing for me is performance. And of course, you know what? My expectations for this was not that this would be a powerhouse, that this would be the sort of thing that I would, load on. What is the latest game that I would play? Grand Theft Auto? No. Crisis? That's old reference, isn't it? What's a game kids are playing these days? I mean, you could play Fortnite on this if you wanted to, but this isn't, I didn't expect this to be the kind of computer that I could load on the latest game at ultra graphics or even low-res graphics. I didn't want to play games on this thing at all. Really, I just want a decent Chrome browser and access to some software that I use for ripping CDs. And even in that, the performance of this really disappoints me. Chrome especially is kind of painful to use on this, to be honest. It was bad enough that, I was started to second guess whether or not I was having network issues. But then I opened up speed test on this and I tested the speed connection, and I was getting the same download and upload speeds that I was getting on my MacBook. So it didn't seem like the network was the issue. And then I started worrying that maybe there was some issue with the processor. And so I ran a Geekbench score test on it, and it came back with the same results that I've been seeing other people getting with it. So I think my experience with this is pretty typical. I feel like my expectations were pretty well tempered for this, but I was way off. This thing, in terms of performance, is just a bit of a bummer. And the way that those performance issues show up is in kind of like a number of small ways, like, scrolling performance. When I'm scrolling a web page, it's a little janky. It will drop frames pretty significantly. It's not a good look. Or even just like the time that it takes to start loading a website. It's much slower than I expected. Compare this thing to, let's say, a modern day iPad. I don't even think you need the iPad Pro, just the regular basic iPad. This thing can do a lot more than an iPad can do. That's 100% true. But all of the things that an iPad can do that this can do, the iPad's gonna do them better. It's just gonna be a much smoother experience. Playing video and stuff like that, it's just gonna be much more effortless on an iPad, where on this, You know, like sometimes there were some 4K 60 videos I was able to get to play nice and the frame rate looked pretty nice. But then there were some other videos, and I don't know what the difference is, but some other ones where it was like hiccuping while playing the video. And that was where I thought like maybe there were network issues or maybe there's some issue with my CPU, but as far as I can tell, everything here on my device is operating as expected. But yeah, that's not to say that there aren't some really nice things about the Surface. I think the screen is really nice. The speakers are even, you know, they're pretty good. They're not super loud. They're not great speakers, but they're better than I expected them to be. This has got a lot of really good things going for it. Just performance is, oof, it is a bummer. So yeah, I give the Surface Go 2 stars out of 5. If you're still interested in checking it out, I do have a link to Amazon down below, as well as the type cover. If you get it, for sure get it with this type cover, because in my opinion, this type cover is probably the best thing about this package. While you're down there, you can hit the like button for the video if you like the video. You can subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and then I'll see you on the next super review.